Hello, welcome to a grade 3 math game that we're going to be playing today, and it's all about multiplication. So if you guys remember from yesterday, we built some multiplication arrays, right? Equal rows and equal columns with some manipulatives, so I have those with me today. We also used our grid paper, so if you want to use grid paper, feel free to do that as well. All I have in front of me is a deck of cards, and what I've done is I've just taken out every face card, but every other digit is there, so I have the aces as my 1, and I do have 10s in there as well. What we're going to do is we're going to actually flip over 2 numbers, and these are going to represent my factors. So I'm going to multiply, so the 2 numbers I just flipped over are 7 and 4, and I'm going to multiply 7 times 4. Now granted, if your students know this automatically, that 7 times 4 is 28, that's great, so that they're already halfway there. But if they also have to go back and represent what 7, remember it was 7 equal rows of 4, if they need to build that, that's fine too. Or of course, if they want to be a little artistic, they can create 7, right? I'll do it right for you guys right now, just as a refresher, 7 equal rows of 4. And they can count the area in which that fact covers. And like I said yesterday's lesson, if you guys watched it, I appreciate it if you did. I always have my students label. So it's 7 by 4 or 7 equal rows of 4. And in the middle, I'm going to write 28. Okay? So now that's my round. Now you can choose to do this with partners. You can choose to do this just solo. I would recommend having kids just play this solo first and then bring in a game to it. So that's my first factor, pair of factors. So I have 28 as my product. My next 2 factors that I flipped over were 9 and 8. And 9 times 8, if they know it's 72, that's great. Or, of course, they can build that as well. And that would be 9 equal rows of 8. So I'm going to do that really quickly. Bear with me, just so that you guys can see what your children will see as well. Or if children are watching, you can all learn what this would look like if you feel like drawing your area. Okay. So I have 9 equal rows of 8, and as you can see, that took me a bit longer than 7 equal rows of 4. Am I correct? So now let's look at this area. Okay, like I always do, I always label 9 equal rows of 8, and I can see that I have an area of 72. So now when comparing these 2 areas, I can clearly see that 28 is in fact less than 72, or you can say 7 times 4 is less than 9 times 8. So this is where the fun comes into play. So in our earlier grades, we always talk about comparing, right? Greater than, less than. But sometimes our students use the words like bigger or smaller. And I really want students to stray away from bigger and smaller. And the reason being is because I can write a pretty big 2 and I can write a pretty small little teeny tiny 7. Big and small relate to size, not quantity. Right? So we're talking about the value of these numbers, the product, right? So if I'm thinking about that, I really need to talk about the greater value, right? Or greater than and less than, not bigger or smaller, okay? So now from here, you can encourage students. These were 10s and 1s that we used in our primary grades. All I did was I cut straws to create these little 10 rods essentially, but we're going to be using them as comparison symbols. So you can use anything, toothpicks, paper clips. Paper clips are fun because you can actually link them together if you wanted to. But what's really cool about this is that I want to just give you a little update or a little lesson on what these symbols actually mean. So everything stems from the equal sign. If you notice on an equal sign, the same size on this side of the lines and this side of the lines, they are equal. That's where the equal sign comes into play. This side of the equation is the same value as this side of the equation because my symbol tells me so, right? So I have the same space on this side as I do the other side, okay? But as soon as those values on either side change or increase, that's where the greater than symbol or less than symbol come into play, right? So no swamp eating alligators are happening. Nothing's chomping down on larger numbers. That's crazy talk. We're talking about math here. So we're really talking about this symbol, right? So the greater than sign always the greater part of the symbol always faces the greater value. And likewise, the smaller part of the symbol, it's really hard to hold this, I apologize, faces the value that is less, okay? So when I put this down, I really want to make sure that I specify that 74 is in fact less than, or I'm sorry, 74, I said 74, sorry, 7 times 4 is less than 9 times 8, okay? So talking about the quantity of 28 is less than 72. And so I want kids to talk about that. If you feel like they need to actually put the symbol in between 7 times 4, that's awesome. And you can likewise use these straws to actually put that symbol of multiplication. Now, if you wanted to make this a game, I would love for you guys to be a little competitive and have some fun. And this goes back to what we remember to as war. So I pulled a 7 times 4. I'm going to multiply this. My partner's going to pull a 9 times 8, and they're going to multiply that. And whoever has a greater product can win that round. And so therefore, my partner would win. However, you can also mix it up and talk about not the greater value, but let's talk about who has the less value or who has the smaller value, right? We can say smaller value, not just small. So in that case, I would win this round. So have some fun with this and enjoy, but ultimately practice multiplication, practice making it visible so that they can clearly see that 7 times 4 is in fact less than 9 times 8. All right, and have some fun.